Today is a big day on which we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Since the generation of Christians have been passing on the great news of Jesus' resurrection, we can gather here today to celebrate. Each time we celebrate, we revisit the Bible passage that recorded the resurrection, and we reflect on the meaning of resurrection to us. The descriptive narrative about the resurrection in the Gospel according to John contains a number of interwoven occurrences of seeing. The various actions of seeing brought out different reactions and responses from the people who saw and affected their lives differently. The people who saw, I mentioned here, are not limited to the first eyewitness of Jesus' resurrections, but also include you and me. First, Mary saw the tomb that was opened. She did not go in to see. She did not even bend over to see. Instead, she hurried to tell Peter and the disciple that the Lord loved John. When Peter and John were told that Jesus' tomb was open, they were of course concerned and shocked. They quickly started out for the tomb, and both of them were running. John was younger and ran faster than Peter. John arrived at the tomb first, but he did not go in. According to the scriptures, he bent over and looked in at the strips of the linen lying there. Like many people, Mary and John only used their eyes to see the things in front of them. Then it was Peter's to turn to see. Peter arrived later than John, but he went straight into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen lying there. He saw the funeral cloth and had been wrapped around Jesus' head. The cloth was still lying in its place. It was separate from linen. Apparently, in Parisons, tombs were not holes stuck in the ground, but caves dug inward along the side of the hill. The cave would then be blocked with a large stone. Inside the tomb, the rabbit corpse would have been placed such that the head was further inside and the feet were closer to the entrance. That was why when John bent over to look in the tomb, he could only see the strips of linen, which had wrapped Jesus' body. On the other hand, Peter went inside the tomb and could see the whole situation, including the fact that the linen for Jesus' body and the funeral cloth for his head were placed separately. Now, here the way Peter saw was described using a separate Greek word that was used 58 times in the New Testament. Its meaning is to look carefully, to see with the mind. Because Peter saw with his mind, he could observe more details. Today, many people are similar to Peter. They look at things carefully and listen attentively, but they do not understand. What happened right afterwards was John's second round of seeing. The Bible uses a third Greek word for seeing, which means to be carefully aware, to perceive, and to realize. These word appears 113 times in the New Testament and is often used to describe seeing of a spiritual nature. Seeing that Peter went into the tomb, John followed and saw what Peter saw. This including the linen, which wrapped Jesus' body, as well as the funeral cloth, which had wrapped his head. And this item were placed separately. The scripture says, John saw and believed. Now, from observing evidence on the surface to accepting the spiritual truth that Jesus resurrected, John was no exceptions. He needed faith. Many people who participate in the church religious life and work are similar to John, in that they accept the spiritual truth that the church teaches. Just like John, their spiritual life requires further seeing before their lives can be transformed. Therefore, they quietly went back to where they are staying, and they go back to fishing. At that time, Jesus' resurrection did not bring about real change in their lives or daily life. My friend and my brothers and sisters, think about it. What kinds of seeing for now you are in your spiritual lives? See and believe. You really see? After Peter and John left, Mary stood outside the tomb and cried. She bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels. She asked the angel for Jesus' body. Then when the resurrection Jesus appeared, she thought he was the gardener. Mary's own intention was to find Jesus' body. She moved and cared about Jesus. No matter how hopeless and unacceptable the situation was, she still wanted to do something for Jesus. Where can these types of single-minded love be found? A husband and his wife love each other more than they would love any other people or things. These types of single-minded love is exactly how God requires people to love him. Mary's single-minded love resides in seeing the resurrected Lord. When Jesus called Mary's name in a familiar way, she recognized Jesus' voice. In the same way that a lamb would recognize the voice of good shepherd who called her name. The Bible says Mary turned toward him to see him, and she recognized him as the resurrected Jesus. The time of seeing that Mary did is the fourth time. One where she meets the Lord face to face and experiences him in person. Only these times of seeing can bring people transformation like the one Mary had. My friend and my brother, sister, what kinds of seeing you have? You have seen Jesus. After Mary saw what had happened, she obediently passed on everything Jesus said, instruct his disciples. This is true manifestations of saw and believing. The seeing that generate actions is what let us really believe. These times of belief highlight that seeing is meaningful. We must not take it for granted that it's easy for Mary to follow Jesus' instructions and inform the disciples. This is because when Mary did that, she would have been questioned. Would have been questioned, Lord Jesus has risen? What evidence do you have? Perhaps you did not see things clearly because you were devastated. Why would a resurrected Jesus reveal himself to you? Not me. Why did he not reveal to his apostle first? What gave you the authority to become Jesus' spokesperson? Of course, there are many more questions. In the Jewish society, my friends, where women were not valued, how much faith and courage did Mary need in order to go into the disciple and pass on Jesus' instructions? Yet Mary obeyed Jesus' command and did it. This was her faith. It was also because he saw the Lord. My friend, my brothers and sisters, did you see the Lord? Did you see the Lord? Especially during this coronavirus pandemic. Can you and I see the Lord in the midst of this pandemic, this outbreak? I doubt it. Many of people, they didn't see the Lord in the midst of this pandemic. Otherwise, life, the community will be totally different. Less panic, less fear, more support each other, more faith and hope and love. Did you see Jesus in the midst of this pandemic? Is he here? My brothers and my dear brothers and sisters, in the 21st century, especially during this day, what do you see? What do you believe? And what do you do?